Hello, 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 hello. I'll start sharing my screen and start streaming the um, La Carrita News platform shortly. Um, this video will eventually be shared as just a normal long format YouTube video. Um, but yeah, my name is Ricardo. I'm running the La Cartita News website, lacartita.com. And the website is all about touching these stories that are hard to categorize, but certainly have a public dynamic or a multicultural, multilingual angle to it. Well, certainly with these string of deaths that happen between unfortunately between Colombians and Americans visiting Colombia, and then Colombians getting killed by Americans in Colombia. Well, that's something that's going to have to be discussed over time and discussed, and maybe even at the bilateral level, by a formal treaty, because um, a lot of crimes are being committed in Colombia by Americans who feel, perhaps correctly, that they will face less prosecution for this type of stuff. Now, unfortunately, these crimes are of a horrendous nature, and them going unpunished is a blemish, I think, on the justice system there, and on the very nice things that America has to offer the world. Um, because it overshadows the good, right? The flagrant nature of them is so bad that I think, whenever we actually do have, a great administering of justice, then that's when those two societies and communities are able to um, heal from the issue, and it doesn't go further than that. So right now, here's a great example of, I think, the best way to resolve an issue of this nature. John Paulos was sentenced to 42 years in prison over an involuntary manslaughter charge in Colombia. Unfortunately, this involved the murder of a young lady. Here she is. She's beautiful in her element. She was DJ in Medellin, and so she was. It was classified officially as a femicide in Colombia, and the judge even alluded to the fact that Paulos may have been jealous and engaged in controlling behavior, and not the controlling behavior that's become so popular in social media. It's like, no, real controlling behavior, real issues involving someone who has a disproportionate amount of power against another person, and is using every single economic leverage that they have against them to bully them, to pressure them, and then unfortunately, there may have been some type of drug abuse involved, and so that's what's led to some of the notoriety around the case. And Colombia is a place that, if you don't ever want to touch a drug, there's plenty to do. And if you enjoy different of that night lifestyle, you're exposing yourself to quite a lot of risk. And I think it goes for both native people of Colombia, but like residents, citizens of Colombia, to Americans and foreigners in general visiting the area to enjoy those type of those type of dynamics. And anyways, John Paulo sentenced to 512 months, 42 years, or more than 42 years, for the death of a 23-year-old young lady, Valentina Trespalacios. Um, she was found in a suitcase in a garbage can. That's kind of what added insult to injuries. This was last year. Caused a great amount of upheaval and interest in the Colombian media. There's a lot of fear that he wasn't going to get sentenced, but I think, once the overwhelming amount of evidence, there was video evidence of him dumping the body, and here's this jerk. Um, there's video evidence of this guy dumping the lady's body in a trash can. And I think that's really what pushed it over the limit. And he showed no remorse. According to the judge, his jealousy drove him to it, and that's why he is punished. That's what he punished Valentina by murdering her. And in a sense, the judge also questioned if he had thought about his children when he committed the crime. So I think, there's a lot of outrage, a lot of familial linked outrage to the issue, that usually we don't see in the press, but these are similar statements that would have been made in an American courtroom, I think. So I think it's certainly beneficial to all that we recognize that other countries have um, sensibilities too, and then they can administer justice against us, or against people who are not from there, as well as we can towards them. I think it's a matter of mutual respect. Anyways, that's the news there. And unfortunately, it's a tragic piece of news. Valentina Trespalacios, her body was found in a trash can a year ago now, over a year ago. And unfortunately, this is just one of those things where people need to be aware that in Colombia, if you commit a crime like this, you're gonna get the book thrown at you, and even the U.S. government will back the move on the foreign government's play, as long as there's evidence for it, as long as there's a sufficient amount of evidence. They might even go over the top for more evidence, but the point is that you will be sentenced for this type of stuff. On the flip side, there has been a few issues in Colombia with regards to the so-called passport bros, and I think this is something that doesn't get talked about much in the press, because there's not quite there's not a great angle for it, right? Unfortunately, the passport bro has been unreasonably, in my view, vilified for some of their concerns. These are young men, or maybe even older men, who want to go to Colombia to hand um, in a new social context. Maybe they want to date somebody, meet somebody they can marry, and that's fine. It's um, people meet however they meet, and they're all in their right to do so. Unfortunately, a lot of this trend of passport bros has started to get some overlap with sex tourism. Unfortunately, this type of tourism is also top of mind. Now, bear in mind, some of this could very well be legal, but a lot of times, a lot of men from the US are going down to Colombia to engage in the entire smorgasbord of nightlife. And they're going by themselves, and they're going very naively into these jurisdictions. And where there's not quite the same level of security. And this is one case where potentially we may have an American, the name of Jaime Eduardo Cisneros, who was found in his Airbnb um, sometime in the afternoon, sometime, not in the late afternoon, at least, closer to the evening, sprawled in his hotel room, basically naked. And the only reason they bothered checking in on him was because the hotel lobby, and the hotel, the people, the staff in the hotel lobby, um, were receiving weird text messages about, how does this guy's debit card work, essentially. And so that's what led to them checking on him, and then eventually determining that, hey, this guy's really not he's not doing well. And there's been at least 27 or like a couple dozen of these foreign deaths in Colombia, and a lot of it has to do with drugs and over drug consumption. And I think some of these people may be engaged in nightlife, and not necessarily be as savvy as they think they are. So that naivety is affecting them, having mortal consequences. So that's the latest on the website. And so check out the website. It's lacartita.com, and you can find all types of stories of this nature whenever you want. Thanks.